following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your gear. Keep following the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
I done been around the world, I done kissed a lot of girls, so I'm guessing that it's true. Make me holler and I bet $1 million. Don't nobody kiss it like you. Don't nobody kiss it like you. Don't nobody kiss it like you. Bang, bang, bang. Don't nobody kiss it like you. Don't nobody kiss it like you. It's 5 in the morning, Kush is rolling while she making steak and eggs. Yeah. Don't problem. At 5 in the morning, we can only be about to do one thing. What? See, I told her the devil is a lie. Them other girls can't compete with mine. You do it so good, you blow my mind. You pull it out, then you open wide. You make me want to tap out every time. That pretty lips leave me so inspired. I think that she a winner. She could be a keeper, cause she's such a good kisser. Got lipstick on my lips.
I had to let that ride. Like that song. You know, you were locked in to Artist Repeat with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. And of course, I said we're going to be discussing Usher this hour. I want to know from you. And Andy, I'm going to ask you this as well. Do you think that over the past, about 25, 26 years that Usher has been out, that he has had a period where he's fallen off? I know it was rough. It was a little shaky, the EDM years when, we weren't sure what was happening with R&B. But do you think that Usher, is someone that we can think of man, he fell off and then had a resurgence?
I don't think Usher ever fell off. I think he had a cooling period, which was after Confessions. But I don't think he's ever fallen off. He's always been up there.
Because the Here I Stand album, that was when people were kind of mad at him when he got married to Tamika, and they were, disappointed in their feelings. I will say, it is hard to be a male artist, and when they put you out as the sex symbol thing or whatever, because it is a fact. Women do change how they respond to you when you get married, especially if you marry someone, and I'm talking about female fans. And whenever I say this stuff, it's not all inclusive. I know your cousin's best friend and your whole crew would never, ever, ever look at any artist differently because of their mate selection. But some people do. And I mean, they can be really hard on that mate. They can be really hard on the artist just because they chose to fall in love with someone that may not line up with what you have created in your head as the perfect option for them. But I think it's really incredible when you think about it because he rode through. Listen, we know he's doing the Super Bowl, right, in Vegas. It makes sense. There's the connection. He's had the residency for the past 2 years, knocking it out the park. We obviously saw the hoopla this summer that he had with the female celebrities when he was singing There Goes My Baby to them and stuff like that. I personally wish I could have been in Paris this weekend for his 2 shows in Paris. We'll get to the female celebrity that he had a run-in with and how he decided that this time he was going to avoid the smoke. But, I think Usher is up there. He's legendary. And you think about what he dropped in 95, 96.
Mm-hmm.
Just Call Me a Mac. What was that? Was that on the Poetic Justice soundtrack? What song was Just Call Me a Mac on? His first single, not from the album. It wasn't. It was on a soundtrack, and he had on, I know this because one of my closest friends was his lead in the video. And that's how we first heard about Usher. And it was like filmed in downtown LA, like on top of a building. The song was called Just Call Me a Mac. I don't remember what, I feel like it might have been Poetic Justice. Of course, I'm going to Google it and look it up. He was so Poetic Justice. Yeah, I know. So 93 actually is when Usher dropped. But his album, the first one that y'all didn't listen to, that I wore out, that had Devontae and Puffy production on it, that I really would. I saw him perform those songs back in the day. I would love to see if he would just add, like, Think of You. That's the video. I believe he had Terrell Hicks in. And Can You Get With It? I know he was probably too young for that stuff at the time, but it didn't seem like it in my mind. It made sense to me.
Monica was young when she came out. They was all young when they came out. So.
But I think at that time, too, even though there were kid acts and stuff like that, I don't feel like...
They acted grown.
Yeah,
teenagers back then acted grown.
It was a difference. Like, I remember coming across Another Bad Creation in the studio, and it was about 11 p.m., right? And I was like, these kids are mannish. I was like, what's going on here? You know? I was like, why are you speaking like that? You're a child. Like, they were off the chain, off deck. And again, I think it was just a different time. I know people think that that is a cop-out when we say that, but context is key. And certain things that are societal norms aren't anymore. We've changed our mind about them. We've become, you know, better people, if you want to say, or more in tune and in line with things and exposure, but it was a different era. And I just feel like Usher doesn't get... I was listening to an interview from him, and we're going to play some of his comments about the Super Bowl and what happened, because Jay-Z actually stepped to him. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Jay-Z and the NFL and what it's been like since he and Rock Nation have got involved with the NFL halftime show. But Usher was saying how, you know, when he was going to work on that second album, which ended up being a big hit, his voice was changing during that time period. So he didn't know what was going to be on the other side of that voice, which is a very real thing for teen singers. Ralph Tresvant went through that. Michael talked a little bit about that. You know, some other ones from back in the day, if you really want to go. Lorenz Tate played him in the movie Why Do Fools Fall in Love? I'm blanking on his name. I'll think of it. But Why Do Fools Fall in Love? You know, the changing of the voice when you're going through puberty and that thing can be a big thing. So Usher said he made the decision at that point to focus on performance and dance too. And that was one of the best things that could have happened to him because it made him a complete performer. When we come forward, we'll hear Usher's thoughts on going to Super Bowl, what Jay-Z had to say to him, and of course we'll hear about Ari and all of those good things. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Los Angeles Urban League helps African American and others in underserved communities achieve true social parity, economic self-reliance, and civil rights. For over 100 years, Los Angeles Urban League has ensured our communities have access to careers with living wages, opportunities to start and grow businesses, and clear pathways to personal and professional growth. Programs like BizCamp, Construction Career Academy, Bob Business Ready, and B-Warp. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Program are examples of the ongoing events designed to make our centennial mission to rebuild Black Wall Street right here in LA a reality. To sign up for our newsletter or to support the Los Angeles Urban League with your time, talents, and donations, visit laul.org. That's laul.org. The Los Angeles Urban League is a proud sponsor of Urban Family Focus, Saturdays at 7 a.m. on KBLA Talk 1580.
1 in 4 Americans today are living with a disability. I'm one of them. People with disabilities are extremely talented, resilient problem solvers that have so much to offer. And we've got a trusted ally on our side, an organization we can rely on, Easter Seals. Easter Seals is leading the way to full equity, inclusion, and access to healthcare, employment, and education for people with disabilities, families, and communities. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours.
Learn more and get involved at easterseals.com.
If you're a veteran with a service-connected disability that is directly impacting your ability to work, resources are available to help you find employment. VA's Veteran Readiness and Employment, or VR&E, can assist you with finding a job that uses your existing skills. Or, if you're interested in exploring a new field, a VR&E counselor can help you determine the right education or training options for a new career. Find out if VR&E is right for you by visiting va.gov/VRE today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Now, before I get into my Usher bag, because it's deep and we got a lot to discuss with that, I want to go back for a second. We were talking in hour 2 about the educational system and the 7th grade teacher who discussed how his students were only reading at approximately a 4th grade level. The parents weren't participating. We know that we've heard stories about parents being combative about the amount of homework the teachers send home night after night, which, some of that stuff is thick, and just about the parents' participation in the educational process. Well, this is kind of on the other side of the game. Floyd Mayweather shared that he pulled his daughter out of private school because she was the only black student in her class, and he felt that that wasn't representative of the real world and that she would get a much better education being in public school where it would look more like the real world. Let's listen to what Floyd had to say.
Make sure all my kids went to public schools, not private school, because public school is more like the real world. I feel like private school is more like a boot camp. Everybody got to dress the same because they want to keep everybody on the even playing field. But public school is more like the real world. It's more diverse. Whereas when you go to private school, it's either white, Jewish. My oldest daughter was going to private school. Now come to find out, my daughter is the only black kid in her class. I said, we can't do this. So I put her in public school.
So, I don't know. I understand. I do. I understand that the isolation that can be felt by being the only in those environments. I understand how it can be confusing and, especially when your father is that wealthy with that type of reputation, coming into an environment as such, it might be very difficult. But I also know the advantages that can come from being in private school. Listen, Floyd knows better than anybody what connections can do for you. So he also knows that you can, at home, outside of school, get that balance and understand. That's why we have code switching. That is something that is deeply rooted in the Black culture. Maybe not for all, but for some things of that nature. So it was an interesting stance to take, and also interesting to me when you compare it against what this gentleman is saying is happening in schools currently about the lack of parental participation. Andy?
I think there were parts that he was correct on and maybe a couple parts where he was wrong. Calling private school a boot camp, I don't know, I would push back on that a little bit, depending on the school that you go to.
True.
To say that public school is preparing his daughter for the real world, there might be a little bit of truth to that, but at the same time, what public school are you going to? You know what I'm saying? Like, considering the amount of money that he has, and unless you're taking your daughter to one of the schools in the hood, which I find to be valuable, especially if you have a spoiled kid to a degree, right? You got them going to the valley schools and all that. Let that person go to a school in the hood. You know what I'm saying? I think they would maybe be a little bit more humble, and their nose probably wouldn't be so much in the air. But I think there's value on all levels. Like you said with the private school, I think there's some value for every kid being on the even playing field to a certain degree.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I went to private school all the way until second grade. But I do remember that period where it was expensive for my parents. But I do know one thing: we had a granny who cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like home cooked meals.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying, as opposed to cafeteria food or whatnot. The education might have been a little bit more accelerated because it wasn't that many students as well too. So I mean, there's right and wrong, and I do think that when it comes to public school, look, when you go to college. When you go to college, you might be the only black person in the class.
Yeah.
Unless you go to a HBCU. So I wonder how he feels about college. Because when you go to college, I mean, if your daughter wants to go to UCLA,
Did
USC,
his kids go to college?
I have no idea.
I mean, I think, to your point, I'm someone who went to both public and private school. I did a very big juxtaposition. I went from Bel Air Prep to Dorsey.
Speak on it. How was that?
What I will say is that, one, it taught me, I understood socioeconomics because of that experience.
Private school?
From going from private school.
Okay,
like, I had been to public school before that, but going from that particular private school where it was, sort of different in the student body that was there, the type of students, the type of things we did. As I said, like there was a trip to Paris that they would take every year. We would have what is called a wilderness week, where it would be a week where we would go camping in the mountains and do trust exercises, biking up the coast, whitewater rafting, things that you just typically don't hear about, happening when you're in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, going to school. And these were just regular parts of it. When I was in junior high school attending this private school, it was like 7th through 12th grade. We had to take 2 languages. So we were taking French and Spanish in 7th and 8th grade. And then you could make the choice as far as which language you wanted to take. When I changed to Dorsey, I was so ahead with my classes and things of that nature. Like, they were trying to figure out kind of how to position me because I had a great deal of classes already done. I would go to summer school in the summer, not because I needed to go to school, but because I wanted to get ahead. My dream was, which I did, I want to get out of school at 12 o'clock my senior year and have work study or something like that. But so it was different. I noticed the difference as far as the resources, the facilities, the books, just all of those type. And I learned that early on, and I understood, how tax dollars contributed to it and those different things. And that's probably not something I even would have taken stock from if I hadn't asked to make that move.
What about the social aspect?
Very different.
Because I felt like that's what Floyd Mayweather was kind of hinting at, because he didn't really highlight education or anything.
Right.
He was just talking about this is more like the real world. So I think, and that's why I kind of agree with him from the social aspect. Like, I always thought about once again, if I was rich and I had my child in the valley or whatnot, or I would still want them to have some sort of experience in the hood, because I just think socially it will have them be more well-rounded.
100%.
And once again, their nose won't be up in the air. They're not going to look at these individuals like, oh, you guys are below me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I'm
they
educated.
might still do
this,
that.
that.
They might still do that. I'm just playing that.
Well,
but
if
they
they
might still
go to
do that.
Dorsey like you did, and they get humbled by some of them students over there, you know, they're going to have an appreciation.
So here's the thing that I will say. Socially wise, it's different conversations just based off of things you wouldn't even expect, right? Like I can't say not everyone, but you know, most of these people, I wasn't there on scholarship. There were some scholarship students. Naturally, a lot of the ones that were there on scholarship, not all, but were athletes, right? But there also was things that I never could imagine. As I said, I went to school. There were child actors that went there. Their parents were managing hedge funds, and they were producers and directors and things in Hollywood. So one guy, he was a child actor. He was 16. I think he became emancipated, and he had a condo in Westwood. But we're in high school. You know, but that's just like, you know, a different type of situation. Now, when I was at Dorsey, were there some people that kind of probably lived alone in a way, but for totally different circumstances? Absolutely. So both kind of independently living on their own, but for different reasons with different things happening. You definitely, being in that environment where there were 25 black people in the entire school. It wasn't a large school. It was about, I think there were 350 people in this private school that had, you know, they were building up their sports program. And it was just a different experience than being there. But what I think it helped me with is that I can flow in whatever environment. You know what I mean? I am not intimidated by going into an all-white environment. I'm not worried about the conversations that I can have. It's interesting to me in discovering that a lot of people haven't shared a meal or had a person outside of their race in their home or been to their home. And that's not an experience that I grew up with. And it's not something that I ever consciously thought about. But when you're faced with that, you learn certain things. There were benefits to me going to Dorsey. There were things that I learned about, things that I was exposed to. It was hard for me. You know, I did get a lot of, you know, stuff from some of the students just based on what they assumed I was and, you know, what I had or didn't have. So I think it's really no right answer. You just want to try and keep your child as well-rounded as possible. I do think that there is a risk of isolation and not knowing yourself to a degree if you pull your child too far into other avenues and worlds without letting them touch, you know, again, understand why that you want to grow, but I think they need that balance. And I think it's a shame when people don't, but I know it's not always easy to. And also people are afraid of their kids getting caught up in being, because what I can say is that there is a certain seductive side when you first see the ratchet part of life. Sometimes you're like, well, what is that? You could do that? Let me see.
Do you think that that a child growing up, whether it's elementary, middle school, high school, that they should experience both private and public schools somehow?
If they could, yeah. I definitely think there are benefits to it because, like I said, one, private school allows you sometimes to get that extra help, that extra attention. You know what I mean? I was taking computer courses in the 7th grade, right? And this is at a time when I'm talking the big floppy disk, like OG old, like I'm dating myself. You don't even know what that is. And it could only fit like what could fit on, it probably couldn't even fit a picture really like a JPEG now on that floppy disk, but we were learning
them thin ones. Them
those
ones.
big thin ones that had the hole in the center and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Listen, but we were learning that, and I felt like that was good exposure. But then you can kind of learn how to apply some of the things that you're seeing over here that are, because of a wealthier status or a more worldly positioning, and you can bring it to this other side. I think that's important too. Urban Spencer in the chat says, are there no black private schools anymore? I went to a black owned and operated private school in LA. MC Light's mom had the foresight to enroll her in African school. Man. Urban Spencer, did you go to Marcus Garvey? Because that's the only black private school that I knew of in LA. It was right here on Slauson, Green Building. I remember when I can't remember, it used to be some other kind of little elementary school, and they bought it, and I'm assuming it was Marcus Garvey, and turned it into that. But I don't know of any, at least in the Los Angeles area, of any private school. Maybe Fred K. Price. That was over here, the Price thing, but I'm pointing, like you guys can see, I'm pointing in the direction I'm pointing. It's east, and I'm pointing east. But I don't know. That is an interesting thing. Maybe I don't know about in the South or in other areas of the country. LA has always kind of been diverse. But when it comes to private schools, I don't know of any. I mean, now maybe you could say as close as you could get, maybe a Sierra Canyon, it's not really, but I'm saying if you think about the concentration, the number of black celebrity and, the sports program, but Kevin Hart's daughter was the valedictorian of the school this past year when she graduated. There are a lot of other people that maybe you wouldn't know of that are a part of, entertainment or tech communities that also are sending their kids to that school for that, same type of education for the same reason. So that would be a good question. I don't know of any black private schools in this area. Probably something that I would maintain would be a benefit of being in the South. I can see that being something bigger in that area. Listen, when we come forward, we're going to talk more about these trending topics and headlines. We're going to get more into the Usher because it's important. He deserves his flowers. And we're going to talk about Ari and Carisha's conversation. Where do you draw the line at inappropriateness? I guess this is a kind of a reoccurring theme of the night. How much of sharing your story should you be mindful of when it involves someone else and will impact them and you know it? It's not a question. It's not a if, it's a when. We'll get into that, of course. And really quickly, before we head out, before we get to the other side, I just want to shout out Baseball Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr. Don't know if you spotted him, but he was on the sideline working as a photographer for the Cardinals and Cowboys game on Sunday. I thought that was dope. He's in his second career. You never really know what you're going to do. It's hard to think of coming off of a career like that. So I'm glad that he found something that he's passionate about and, something that still keeps him in the sports realm. Anyway, when we come forward, more trending topics, more headlines. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
I told her the devil is a lie. Them other girls can't compete with mine. You do it so good, you blow my mind. You pull it out, then you open wide. You make me want to tap out every time. Your pretty lips leave me so inspired. I think I got a winner, could be a keeper.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The White House is warning of the consequences of a government shutdown at the end of the month. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack said a shutdown would cut nutritional assistance for nearly 7 million mothers and children covered by the WIC program. Congress needs to pass legislation to fund the government before October 1st. Meanwhile, New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez says he expects to be exonerated of federal bribery and corruption charges. The Democrat responded to the indictment saying many have rushed to judgment based on a limited set of facts. Authorities said a search of the Menendez home turned up gold bars and nearly $500,000 in hidden cash. He's resisted calls to resign from Congress. And the Writers Guild of America and Hollywood's top studios have reached a tentative agreement to resolve the ongoing writers' strike. And that's the latest. I'm Esther Dillard from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Need an accident attorney by your side? All you got to do is call the Accident Guys.
Injured in a car accident or at work? Call the Accident Guys. Because unlike other firms, an attorney will negotiate your case, not a paralegal.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Following the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. 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 Follow the leader.
Hey Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to K-Dread, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on.
K-Dread. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family was founded to help address domestic violence and sexual assault in the Asian and the Pacific Islander communities. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family's mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. They are committed to meeting the specific cultural and language needs of the Asian and Pacific Islander women and their families. CPAF's vision is of an Asian and Pacific Islander community that embraces healthy relationships and works in partnership with other communities to eradicate all forms of violence. To access services, volunteer, or for more info, visit nurturingchange.org. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe everyone deserves to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look, and unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at the gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Label. And you know what I'm saying? If you're just not grown enough for certain innuendos, a lot of the stuff that he said on this song, or at least, you know what I'm saying, with the hook, would go over your head.
Go right over your head, I know. You my soldier, and you from the Nolia. Look, I love you, Usher. Very excited, very excited. I don't know how I'm getting to Super Bowl, but I would like to be there. Vegas is only 45 minutes away, you know? So here are the writers on that track. Keith Thomas, Young Thug, Jeffrey Williams, Brandon Hodge, Chris Perry, Usher, and Tim Thomas. So
shout out to y'all.
There you go. So let's listen to what Usher had to say about Jay-Z stepping to him and basically telling him, it's your time.
Ask is, what's it like getting that call from Jay-Z?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, you know, me and the big homie, we talk often. But when I got this call,
yeah,
and he said, it's time, it's magic time. You know, it's time for you to have that moment.
Mm.
I'm like, what you talking about? He's like, the Super Bowl. Like, oh, man. You ready? Absolutely, but no question.
Yeah.
And it was like, this was destined to happen. I think that everything that led up to that moment, going to Las Vegas for my Vegas residency for the last 2 years, the legacy, obviously, that is the music, the celebration of entertainment in that place. It's a city of lights. You know, it's always been a place where you know, entertainers go and find love and passion to connection to their fans. So for the Super Bowl to have made its way to Las Vegas while we were in Vegas having such an amazing 2 years.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg too, because the milestones that are occurring, and I mean, the Super Bowl will happen, as you said, at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, February 11th, 2024. Now that also coincides with 30 years. More than 2/3 of your life dedicated to entertainment, to performance, to songwriting, to recording.
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever, especially as you've been going through and trying to bring all these different parts of your journey together to perform in Vegas and create shows like this, does it make you reflect on the life lived thus far?
I mean, of course. I mean, you think about all the people who have played it, and just the idea of how Jay-Z and Rock Nation have really brought a mindfulness to our culture. You know, 30 years of a career deserves this kind of moment, but to have curators like them, like Jay-Z, like Dez, and like Rock Nation to come in and manage to make certain that the entire world understands our culture, understands where we come from, understands the feeling, and celebrates entertainment in the way that they do. I mean, it just feels like it was, you know, I guess if you try to create a playbook in your mind, like 30 years after you start, you potentially play the Super Bowl. Some people wait an entire lifetime, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't feel like this is my lifetime. I feel like I'm only kind of starting to really, really get comfortable.
Well, shout out to Usher. Let's really quickly run it down. You Make Me Wanna went to number 2 in 97. Nice and Slow in 98 went to number 1. My Way went to number 2. You Remind Me, number 1. That's in 2001. You Got It Bad, 2001, number 1. You Don't Have to Call, 2002. Number 3, I Need a Girl, you know, with Diddy. I wonder if we get a Diddy sighting. You know we're going to probably get a Jermaine Dupri sighting. I don't know. I wonder who he's going to bring with him. Of course, I would personally, it's not going to happen, but I wouldn't mind seeing a reenactment of his 2004 concert in Puerto Rico that was broadcast on HBO, where Beyonce came out and was his backup dancer to Bad Girl and just came out there and ripped the whole stage. Their chemistry together as far as performances was crazy, and then left. That was an amazing performance to me. So we also have Yeah, which went number 1 in 2004. Burn, number 1, same year. Confessions Part 2, number 1. My Boo, number 1. Lovers and Friends, number 3. Caught Up, number 8. Love in This Club. That's another song he and Beyonce could perform together. He could bring Wayne out. You know, A lot of options for us there. Loving This Club went to number 1. Oh my God, I saw some people saying, oh, I hope he doesn't do his techno stuff. Are you crazy? Oh my God, went to number 1. I feel like, did he not perform that with the Black Eyed Peas when they did the Super Bowl thing? I could be wrong, but that was out there. DJ Got Us Falling in Love went to number 4. Without You went to number 4. And Scream in 2012 went to number 9. So Usher got hits. Usher got legitimate top 10, top 5 hits. We all know what the Confessions album did. I mean,
what about Same Girl?
Yeah, we're not going to see that.
Why not?
Mm-mm.
That song is legendary.
It is, but who's it with? He can't do that.
Why not?
On CBS, on that platform,
Man,
he doesn't
Usher,
even acknowledge that song.
I need you to do Same Girl for me.
And what is the song? New Flame that he has with Chris Brown?
Chris Breezy. That song is not even all that fire, though.
No, it's not. Same Girl.
Same Girl is
was
popping.
a dope song and a dope video. But, not allowed to do that. So you just going to have to hold on, dig in a YouTube video, because I don't think we're going to see that one.
So I guess we're patronizing cancel culture too, huh?
Who, us here?
Yes.
We aren't a part of it. This is just what they're doing. I'm just saying you're not going to see that out there. I can guarantee you that. That has nothing to do with us. I'm just saying we could bet money on that.
I'm not going to bet. You probably would win that bet.
Usher ain't going to take that ride.
He could do his verse. He could do his part, and that's it.
He ain't going to want no reminders of that. He has enough hits. He's like, I could do something else. Listen, you know who else Usher doesn't want smoke with? Dwayne Wade. So Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union were in Paris for, it's obviously Fashion Week happening in Paris right now for the men. So they're out there taking that in with their stylist, Jason Baldwin. And they went and took in the Usher concert over the weekend. So real quick, Usher said, no more Kiki situations.
Somebody say that your boy crazy looking for me. Well, you should know I'm pretty. All right, okay, let's stop. Let's not get carried away. This is Dwayne Wade. I ain't crazy. I mean, I knocked my whole head off and then dunk it.
So Usher learned. He learned. No repeat lessons. He's not going through that again. He's like, no games. Although it was a great promotion, right?
But D-Wade was standing right there.
D-Wade was standing right there. So it probably is a little different situation. It was all friendly. It was all love, though. What I will say, though, and this is a side, for Usher's Super Bowl commercial, they did little previews with Marshawn Lynch, Deion Sanders, Odell Beckham Jr., and Kim Kardashian. Those last two kind of don't make sense. Odell Beckham Jr. and Kim Kardashian. Here's the thing. Odell is not one of the premier players right now. Why is he featured in a Super Bowl spot?
Because Odell's the culture.
Odell is the culture,
and
but Odell also might be potentially dating Kim Kardashian, and then that makes a little bit more sense. That's all I'm saying. When we come forward, we will get into the Ari Fletcher, Carisha Please clip that we find a little bit controversial. And of course, more trending topics and headlines. All this and more. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin ultra strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans with way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Okay. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom groove. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The rent is too damn high. KBLA joins you in calling for affordable housing. The LA Tenants Union is a diverse, tenant-led movement fighting for the human right to housing for all. The LA Tenants Union demands safe, affordable housing and union rent control. They organize against landlord harassment, mass evictions, and displacement, and mobilize for the repeal of the Ellis Act and Costa-Hawkins Act. The LA Tenants Union is on a mission to strengthen tenants' political power through education, advocacy, and direct action. To get help with your eviction or other landlord-tenant issues, take action for justice, or become a member, visit latenantsunion.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
So you are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Really quick, as we wrap up the Usher Super Bowl conversation, I want to say Usher is also dropping an album called Coming Home. I like that promotion. I like that strategy. Run it up, Usher, run it up. I'm still trying to get in there to see him before he leaves his Las Vegas residency. I hope I can make that happen. We've already heard Good, a single from the album. Sure, we'll be seeing more details, more little previews out there. I hope it does really well to remind us that R&B is still here, still alive, still kicking, and from a 45-year-old guy. It's cool, right? Because Usher's birthday is coming up. He's a Libra, too. By the way, since we've been having the Libra male conversation. Also want to touch on really quickly, we've talked about Roc Nation and Jay-Z and what they have done for the Super Bowl halftime show. Let's also not forget in this that this was supposed to be a social change initiative. And report card on that side, kind of tricky, kind of shaky. Don't know how well that has worked out. I'm not saying it's a failure, but probably not to the degree that some people are expecting. There have been some issues as far as the donations and where they have gone and the amount of money. They've given away more money to some of these other, I forgot. I used to have the stat. I'm going to find the stat and run it down for you guys tomorrow because I think it's important. But they were having trouble allocating the funds as far as the social justice initiatives and finding places that can take them, the funds, and actually, utilize them in the way that they intend them to. So we'll have to see if maybe that gets better. But just to give you a rundown of the last Super Bowl performances over the years, 2010 was The Who. 2011, Black Eyed Peas. 2012, Madonna. 2013, Beyonce. 2014, Bruno Mars. 2015, Katy Perry. 2016, Coldplay. 2017, Lady Gaga. 2018, Justin Timberlake. 2019, Maroon 5. And then The Rock took over, and it was Shakira and J-Lo. The Weeknd in 2021. Dre, Snoop, Eminem, Mary, and Kendrick in 2022. Rihanna last year, and Usher next year. So, not a bad collaboration. I'd also like to know the number of, Black and brown, I'm assuming, workers, entry-level workers that have been able to access the NFL through this program and some of that, because I know that was mentioned as some of the goals for getting involved. So I hope that took place. Just something to think about. Now, let's get on this Ari and Carisha stuff. I will say this about this. Only Carisha could ask this question. Realistically, if I or someone else were having this conversation with Ari, we could not get all up in her business about her baby daddy, G Herbo, and if he is still throwing out little hints and subliminals. Now, we know G Herbo is in a relationship with Taina, who is Fabulous's stepdaughter. And obviously, Ari is dating, is it Moneybag Yo? What is it? I get some of those Atlanta guys, you know, some of the youngs and littles or whatever. But she got a dude, right? So anyway, she said that your man G Herbo, he be asking for a little bit of this, a little bit of that when she comes through when they doing the co-parent and drop off the baby thing. Take a listen.
So I said, you know, with all that, it's hard to pass on you. How is it co-parenting with her? We still be trying to you, because I'm quite sure when he dropped your son off, he be like, damn, look at that. Damn, that's that sitting, face sitting. It's like, how's the co-parenting for real? And do he still be trying to you? I got two questions.
Okay, so one at a time.
Okay. Do he still be trying to you?
He says things.
But I feel like I'm on Mario Jerry Springer.
But we're never in a setting where he can be like, yeah, let me, you know what I'm saying? Like, we ain't never
So what you be saying? What's your response?
I think it's a joke. Like, I don't even take him serious. Like, sometimes, you know, if you overdo it, it's like, okay, stop, you doing too much. Like, you know, I gotta, like, that's, you know, but.
Respect me.
I don't take him serious like that. So it's just be like, boy.
So listen, I think that is a shot at his new girl. I don't know how her dude feels about that, but if you take it as a joke, why are you putting it out there? And, you know, someone responded to her on social media and was like, yeah, I know that you're flirting back. And her response was, no, I'm respectful. I respect mine, blah, 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 blah. But again, why are you putting him on blast like that if it's about respecting yours and whatever? Because now I feel like that is setting it up for potentially for it to be a problem between your dude and your ex-dude, your child's father, because you're saying, hey, he be throwing it at me and I'm rejecting it. Like, it just seems like a little messy, a little problematic.
Well, Carisha did ask her the question.
She did ask her.
I don't think she just volunteered to share
she
that information.
She didn't, but she elaborated and she, you know, she went on. But then to say, she could have just said no if she thought it was a joke. But she explained and then she circled back like, oh, well, I don't really, but she said, I don't take him seriously, but we're not in a space where we could really be taken advantage of. So to me, that says a lot without saying a lot. You know, and like I said, considering that they're both in relationships, those relationships have been a little tricky as far as the conversation. It just seems like I want to take a shot at you. I want to let you know, baby, that your hold with my ex-man is temporary at best if I feel like it. I don't know. Don't be sharing that kind of information about my dude. If we have some type of co-parenting, co-mingling situation, keep that to yourself because it's not going to do anything but cause problems. You know? I don't know. It's a different time, a different world, and really, Carisha knew what she was doing, and so did Ari. Because why are you having this conversation at Revolt World in front of everybody when you already know how it's all going to go down? So really quick, I haven't talked about this story. I'm not going to play the audio, but I just wanted to bring it up really quickly. Megan Good and Jonathan Majors were at an event out over the weekend. Megan was talking. She was, you know, thanking the people for supporting her. She looked amazing. Jonathan was there as well. And she was like, baby, do you have anything you want to say to the people? And Jonathan got the mic. And he didn't really have anything he wanted to say to the people except something about the missus. And it has people scratching their heads. It has people wondering, Did Megan and Jonathan sneak off and elope? Or is this just more PR stuff, just stuff to keep us tuned in, questioning, looking at what's going on? I don't know. They seem to be going strong and low, openly, but in the cut. So we'll have to see how that develops. Speaking of, and this is not Megan's show, but I feel like it's Megan's show's long distance cousin. You know, Megan had Harlem, which was on Prime, which centered on a group of 4 friends in their mid-30s, you know, girlfriends, kind of akin to Girlfriends, the TV show, living single. Urban Spencer, wait, is Megan's divorce final? You know, that's a good question. I'm unsure. I don't know. That's a great question. But, well, no. That's not a great question, actually. Yes, the divorce is final. I do know, you know, there's a cooling off period in California. You have to wait, like, when you file, you have to be separated for, I think, 6 months to a year before you can officially file for divorce. But Megan and Devon are divorced officially. Not going back there. You know, Devon was just talking about a couple weeks ago how he was still, you know, learning to get past it and deal with the hurt. I don't know if Megan and Jonathan are a publicity stunt or if they're real, but I know that Mrs. line wasn't an accident because, you know, especially at this juncture, especially with what Jonathan is going through right now, you know, people are going to be hanging on every word. So him dropping that Mrs. reference, I think it was for a reason, but we'll have to see. Well, VIPs, thank you for rocking with us tonight. Of course, tomorrow we'll get into more trending topics and headlines. There's a couple of stories I didn't get into tonight that we'll get into tomorrow. I'm going to talk about Jamie Foxx and what his friends are allegedly concerned about that's happening with him. And, you know, more headlines, more trending topics, more VIP-isms, all of that and more. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe. When we come forward, it will be the best of KBLA. Thank you for checking in. Have an amazing night.